Well, good Wednesday afternoon, guys. It is I, Big B Knows Best 42 here. Yesterday it was a Pushmower video, and today it's another album review video. So you see, I'm teasing you a little bit with the CD that we got right here. And yes, I do mostly use CDs to do these album review videos. I feel bad now after doing the album review for Hotel California that I actually did not demonstrate the actual LP that I have of the Hotel California album. But here we are today, and I got my patented Notre Dame hat on. Not like that matters, but if I've got any fighting Irish audience out there, any Domers, go Notre Dame. So getting that out of the way, let's do an album review today. Here we are. It's the epic Steve Miller Band Greatest Hits 1974 through 78. I'm a little bit hesitant to do album reviews on greatest hits albums often because they're very unobjective and they're only contain the most commercially successful tunes that the artist is known for. But in the case of Steve Miller Band, there was never, while Steve Miller was very much an icon in the rock and roll scene of the mid to late 1970s, and much of the songs on this album are staples on classic rock radio to this day, 40 to 45 years later. Nobody really knows a whole lot of Steve Miller Band other than the general songs off that you can find on this album and hear on the radio. And one reason I wanted to do my own review on it is it's kind of one of those that it might not be like having Dark Side of the Moon or Led Zeppelin 4 or some of those kind of albums like that, those classic albums. But it is kind of a must-have in a classic rock album library, if you think of it. I mean, you go about anywhere, and Steve Miller Band is appropriate. People always love hearing it. What really I'm going to talk first about what stood out to me artistically about Steve Miller Band in general and the kind of songs on here. There was a great deal of pop sensibility, very much a radio-friendly, accessible sound in every single song that was on here. But that worked out really well in that the songs always kind of told a story. They were always talking about things that people could relate to, and that is why Steve Miller Band did so well. And songs like The Joker, Fly Like an Eagle, Jet Airliner, Rockin' Me, Taking the Money and Run are such staples on classic rock radio and have just kind of, they've been really influential in people's listening library. Like to take you through some of the songs that, this really opened big doors for the use of synthesizers and keyboards going into the 80s, which became even more of a big deal. Obviously, like to point out you got Jungle Love on there, which was a good rockin' tune, had a cool energy to it. But it had the use of the synthesizer imitating like the birds and whatnot and different animals in a jungle setting. Obviously you had Jet Airliner was many people's favorite Steve Miller Band song and one of my personal favorites. A great classic rock tune from the year 1977. And it had the prelude Threshold, which was a synthesizer instrumental. The Fly Like an Eagle, another one of his big real big hits that you still hear a lot today, 45 years later, from 1976. You know, it had the use of organs and keyboards, synthesizers in that. Take the Money and Run, another one that, nobody really knows anything about the musicians in the Steve Miller Band. I'd like to really share a little bit about Gary Malaber was the man playing the drums in all of those tracks, and I'd like to shed a light on him from an artistic point of view. If you listen to those songs, the drumming was very distinctive, it was very noticeable, and it accented the songs really well. And I really feel like when we talk about drummers in classic rock, Gary Malaber and his sound in the Steve Miller Band was very influential and very good. Definitely, I'm not making the argument that he belongs up there with greats such as John Bonham, Keith Moon. He's obviously nowhere near Neil Peart. I don't think we have to spend a minute talking about that. But he's an above-average drummer, and he plays very, very well. In fact, for me, it's many of his transition fills that really take these songs from being just an average good song to a great song. Jet Airliner and Taking the Money and Run are two great examples of that. Steve Miller, I'd like to talk a little bit about him and Steve's voice. I never thought that Steve got any credit at all for how good of a singer he really was. There was nothing overly special about the quality of Steve's singing voice. And while it might not be anything particularly special, it was a very good sound, and it worked very well for the type of songs that he sang, which told a simple story that anybody could understand and relate to. And it had a very good natural sound to it. I just wanted to point that out. I really feel like this is this the best greatest hits album of all time? Maybe, maybe not. I would tend to say that the Eagles' greatest hits, 1971 to 75, might be a little more desirable to have in your vinyl collection if you were into collecting vinyls. But for pure listening enjoyment, there is not one dull second on Steve Miller Band Greatest Hits 1974 to 75. Do you need any more evidence of that statement? I think that you might get a lot out of that just by seeing the condition of the case to the CD. It's in rather piss poor shape. So I've played it a lot of times, so you can at least see that at least one person has got something out of this, and millions more. So definitely worth putting on your iTunes or your Spotify. Go check it out. 14 songs, jam-packed, not a dull moment of listening. Be well and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.